Yeah, Pete Sawle. I've got Fish Tech Inc. partnered with Alexander Stubbs in this, and I also have the Rocky Beat up out of Warren. We started fishing these. I was the first boat to fish these in Alaska. The guy that invented them was Alexander Stubbs, and they had built these traps. They fish pretty good. I think they'd work in Alaska if somebody wants to try them. And actually my wife saw it, sent it to me, and I said, yeah, I'll try them. So he sent us up 6-seater. Well, I don't know when we got back to port, and I called him to tell him how they did. And I said, look, I said, here's the thing. I said, we lease all of our quota. And I said, there's a lot of quota available because there's not that many boats that can fish big pots. And I said, so these things hit the markets, anybody can fish. Wow. They immediately started sending them out to people. And especially if they already had the green ones. And I don't know how many boats called after their first trip, and they're like, man, these black lead pots suck. They don't catch anything. And then called after their next trip, they're like, yeah, never mind. No. And one of the guys up there, he got his pots after the season, put them in his gear shed, took them all out of the wrappers and stacked them all up and let them air out all winter. And he said he went out last spring, and that's the best black cod fishing he's ever had. The green ones seemed to fish right out of the bag, you know. But on my boat, I got a friend of mine running it for cod up there, and well, like one of my deckhands was telling the other one, he goes, you want the good news or the bad news? He goes, the good news. He goes, the good news is we get new gear every year. And he goes, what's the bad news? He goes, we get new gear every year. But he had about 150 of these black ones, and he didn't want to give them up. He's like, those things, he goes, last fall, they kept getting better.
They last longer?
What?
They last longer?
They do, and that's why we've started making the black ones, is it's just,
That material is incredible.
it's a better way.
It's a lot.
This is the original web with the first pots that we made, and they fish really good, and they fish really good out of the box, but they don't, you can wear them out, they fish so good sometimes they kind of destroy themselves, which a lot of the first ones, this is 7 mil diameter wire, millimeter. The first ones were 6,
That's what
and it didn't have all of this extra reinforcement stuff on the ends, and when you pull a pot out of the water full of fish, it'd bend the ends and tear the web, and a lot of that's been changed. But we sold so many of these green pots in the beginning, and there's a lot of guys now, that's all they want. Not bad.
I mean, you lose one or two, it's not gonna break you.
Yeah.
How about the where the fish actually swim in? There was talk on that. One guy was saying you gotta set it just right or something. You gotta, or they won't go in.
But the pots that we were having trouble with originally, the first ones of these strings went across to the other tunnel, or across to the end of the tunnel. It was just tight in the web.
That's where the ones I've got are all, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the blue ones, it was tearing them out. Now they're fixed all the way down the side and tied off back here.
Okay.
And they're tied off here, so you can untie them and play around with them and slack them. It's like, these now are pretty much dialed in to where they stay closed.
Right.
So
What do you use for ground line then?
we just, I mean, what I tell you this year might be different next year, because everybody's learning on this stuff, because we're constantly changing. And when I first started fishing these, we were fishing big pots, so we fished these for a couple of years on 3/4 inch floating line. And I liked it. It worked really great. We had 2 sets of 1/2 inch Hydro Pro neutral, so we tried that, and it fished really good. So I was fishing 2 sets of that and 3 sets of the 3/4. I like the 3/4 because with these pots on the 3/4, I could do anything I wanted. Set off cliffs, set whatever, you know, because there's no weight on it. You can go crazy with it. The buddy of mine I've got running the boat now, he didn't like the 3/4. He's a lot more of a precision type fisherman than I am, and he's trying to get it to land just perfect, and that 3/4 was drifting a lot on him. So, and because it's floating line and it's big, and the pots don't have any weight to them, and so then we got 9/16 floating, and he liked that better, but his favorite sets were those 2 1/2 inch hydro pro set.
Sinking
The neutral,
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
neutral.
and there was couple other boats that had switched over last year and were trying it, and they were like, man, I think it fishes a little better. So this year, we've switched over, we've got 4 of the Hydro Pro, and so we've still got 1 3/4 inch set that he's got on the boat that he can bomb off a cliff or whatever he wants to do, you know.
So
But
are you waiting, like he was talking about SAS weights, when you,
what we're doing, is, we got 2 anchors on the end, so, and we're just using, chain, it's the anchor chain off of buoys. 3 lengths of that is about 60 pounds. I cut some 3s and some 4s, but what did I cut? I cut 8 3-link chains, and I cut 14 4-link chains, and I still had a pretty good sized pile out of that.
so these things you do not weight these, is that right?
No, we don't.
And they
Yeah.
just lay on the bottom
Yeah.
and roll around or do whatever?
We'll go with we'll put 2 of those chains together next to the buoy, just hooked together, and then about 15 fathoms in, we'll put 2 more. And the idea behind that, because we'll leave our gear out when we go to town or whatever, and usually if you're going to town, the weather's coming up, that your buoys will sit there and bounce your anchor around, but they just bounce the one, they don't bounce the second one.
Right.
And you can put your anchors as far apart as you need to if you're worried about how much weight you're suspended at any given time. But, and even if you're just, I mean, you're better off to split 2 lighter ones than to have them together. It's just, that bouncing around is bad weather without, we call them surge anchors, and that's the one closest to your buoys. If you don't have them, with these pots, the first 5 or 6 pots will not have much in them. If we put an anchor. We got 2 anchors on the first end, and then a third and a third and a third. Or I guess it'd be a third and a third through, we'll put an anchor. So when your anchors go over for the next 6, 8 pots where you got that weight pulling down, they actually go down with this down, because the ground line's pulling them down. But then after that anchor isn't affecting them anymore, then they kind of go down like this off to the side of the ground line. So, and how they end up landing, I don't know. You've got whatever you're using on here, you've got, like this one would have a C-link on here and a C-link on your Ganyan, so there's weight there.
Sure.
It's gonna, and that's what this hose is for, is we were using carabiners, and these pots sometimes, depending on current, will twist around your ground line. And so it would, your ground line would be here, and the carabiner your ground line's here, if you pushed against it, and it would open it up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you just see that, just hanging by the tooth, and I don't know, I'm sure I lost a few that way, but, and I was just like, I don't know if I've lost any, but I'm gonna. So then we switched to C-links. That worked great, except because you got 2 C-links on here, and it's heavy, if the pot comes down, lands on the web, catches it by one mesh, and you pull a whole pot up, or you pull a hole in it, you don't know you did it. So we put this hose on here. And
good idea.
it might, I think it's this hose might be one size too small.
So how many pots and stuff, and how many fathoms long, how many in between?
What we do is we go 30 fathoms in between, and we've had them at 20 and 25 and 30. 25 is not bad. 20 is a little close. It gets a little busy setting, a little busy hauling. We'll be doing a lot more stopping if you're handling fish, and never saw really a change in production that much over like 20 fathoms versus 30.
Okay.
So we figured 30 is better because you can cover more ground, get a better look. So, you know, hold a little more ground if there's other boats around.
Sure.
I know there's some guys in Alaska they're setting at 30, but they've got an extra Ganyan or a little Beckett every, 15 fathoms.
Oh,
And sometimes they'll put them all real close together trying to just spot.
find one little spot.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
saturate it.
But
yeah.
maybe 40 fathoms. The closer you go and the deeper you fish, the more you've got hanging over the side of your boat.
Right.
You know, and it's not really the weight, because if you're stopping your hauler every time you're taking a pot off, these pots all relax and your fish are suspended.
Right.
And depending on how fast you're hauling, it's not the weight, it's if there's current.
The drag.
It's the drag, yeah.
That's what I
It
noticed
gets
with
you.
hauling.
Yeah, so.
So I get a lot of questions, guys are gonna wanna fish this with their crab line or ground line. So crab line, I was talking to Sheila a bit, that would, you gotta have somebody coiling,
That's
is
the only
that
thing
right?
is, yeah, somebody's gonna have to coil it, you know.
Ground
Or
line, you
to a
don't
certain
have to have
extent.
somebody coil.
The way that we've got, it's all like about that lay, that hydro probe, but it's a medium lay. And we don't coil it, we'll coil a buoy line, on the first end. I don't know if they're coiling a buoy line on the second end now, probably. First end, there's nothing to do anyway, might as well, you know, there's no fish not coming on the boat or anything, no pot stand,
Yeah.
so somebody's there, they just coil it. And then after that, yeah, we just let it spool. And what we've got is just one of those Junus coilers hanging on the rail, and put a different motor on it that's slower speed. Cause the ones they come with are made for crab line, so, and to neck it down to hauling this, they just sit there and squeal and hiss and about drag it out. But
Yeah,
we put a different motor on it, but it just falls in the bin. And then when the C-link comes along, they'll grab it at the coiler and hang it on a pin. So, which it works well. But there's still, like the schooner fleet out of Seattle and stuff, a lot of those guys are still fishing a harder lay line because they've always had somebody sitting behind their hauler coiling for 100 years.
Yeah, right.
On those boats, and that's just how they do it. And they've got C-links on there, and they're still using skate bottoms that they're tying their ground line up in, and they've got a knot every 150 fathoms,
I'll be
and
down.
they just flop their C-links.
So
on.
3/8 as far as strength wise is plenty good for running this stuff. Or what's the,
It's.
I know your half inch was your
I
lightest.
think it's the bare minimum.
Okay,
I mean,
you're better off
you're
going bigger.
better off going bigger. I mean, just because,
You get caught and you've got all those pots out there with that, you know, catching the
What-
wind,
the
so to
weight.
speak, yeah, the weight hanging out
Yeah.
with the current.
one good thing about pots, and especially if you're using and one nice thing about floating line is they're about the easiest thing there are to grapple back if you break them off. But it's no fun having to do it, but it's these things, we've grappled back big pots. I don't know if you ever had to grapple back big pots, but it's not fun. I mean, it's heavy and everything's tight and it just flat out sucks. These things, it's still a pain in the butt, cause you know, you don't know where you're gonna catch it and it comes up but it's not heavy, you don't feel like.
This one's got a bridle, and those don't.
Yeah, they don't come with bridles, this is just rigged here.
But
at the store,
this
so
is
can
how you
see.
rig them up.
This
though,
is how we would
like
rig them,
this.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is how we got people sending us pictures, hey, I figured out a different way to do the doors. The bridles are pretty much all done, everybody pretty much does them the same, up to this knot. And then from what's here down, some guys are using C-links, some carabiners, some long line snaps. C-links, once you get used to them, they're kind of, I mean, it takes the crew a little bit. A carabiner's pretty easy at the rail to just reach out there and undo it and pick the pot up. And C-links, but after you do 1,000 of them, you're not even really looking at them anymore. Your fingers know where to go and they come apart. And setting, the way that we set those, you got a C-link on your gannion on your ground line, and our line's just going into a line bin. So when the link goes over the coiler, then they just hang it on a pin, so that everything's pinned there. So they can be 3 pots ahead if they want to be what's going off the stern. So you're not sitting there trying to get this thing together while the line's pulling on you.
Yeah.
So, and then they're just throwing the bait right in the tunnel as they're putting them out.
Yeah, we just threw onion bags with some hake in it, and then a scoop with some squid or something
Yeah.
tucked into the middle, you know?
That's another thing about these pots is the web is small enough on these that the whole pot is kind of like a bait bag.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a lot of fish around, you start throwing loose bait in there and it makes a big difference. If there's a lot of dog sharks around, arrowtooth around, don't do it, because we were getting, especially the green web pots, we were getting these softball sized holes in our pots, and it's like, and I think it was we were throwing all that loose bait in there, and on the way down, that squid would get caught in the mesh, and then you got fish from the outside
Chewing
chewing on it, and you
Yeah.
get some, like an arrow tooth or something like that, gonna chew holes in it, so, but,
So then just like regular net, you just get your twine out and just start patching?
if you can, I mean, yeah, just like fixing a regular net, if you got big holes, then you take your worst pot that you don't wanna fix and make it a donor pot and start cutting patches out. The price point on these pots, I mean, like say, as far as fishing gear goes, they're one of the cheaper things
Yeah,
you
they
go to
are.
buy.
That's amazing.
These guys, depending on how much fishing you do, you know, you get 3, 4, 5 years, you know, and then they just keep getting better and better and better the more they break in.
Thank you, Pete, very much.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, you guys
Really
have any
appreciate it.
questions, give me a call.